Hey everybody, what's going on? Now, apologies for being late again. I know. But work has been pretty busy. Things have been picking up, which is good. Sometimes it's like that in the real estate world. They say, one day nothing's going on, and then one day seems like everything's going on. So I was pretty busy, just left the office. We're here at Central Park South, and look at this gorgeous view we got. You see Central Park Tower and 220 Central Park South in the shot here. But if we go over just a little bit, guys, look at that. So this is 157. And that looks to be the entire 83rd floor. It looks like the new purchaser has moved in. I believe that's a duplex, or excuse me, not a duplex. It's the entire 83rd floor. It's an awesome apartment. Now, this is the famous Essex House sign. And then just to the left of that, you have Steinway Tower. Now, I was up in this apartment, up in the 83rd floor. All right, great. Now, that was one of the, I would say, more notable listings of last year. It was on the market. I believe they listed it for $34 million, and it went under contract and sold for, I believe, 32 in less than 2 weeks. It's going to be a shorter than normal stream, obviously, because we are getting started crazy late. It's already past 10 o'clock. So let's just let's kind of take a walk through Central Park at night to give you guys some perspective of what Central Park is like after hours. And I mean, my God, I don't know about you guys, but I'm so pleased to see finally some leaves on the trees. Probably can't make it out now in the shot, but whew, Central Park is finally blooming, and it looks amazing for once. Now, tomorrow's the big day, I should say, on Wall Street. You have GDP numbers, and US GDP is expected to grow plus 2% for the 7th quarter in a row. So the economy is rocking. Now, we didn't get the numbers yet. They will be dropping tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. So up bright and early for the GDP numbers. I'm sure all of you will be. And then we have Microsoft reporting after the bell tomorrow. So I think that's really going to set the precedent for not only the rest of the week as we go into Friday, but the vast majority of the quarter. Usually when you have these big mega cap tech companies reporting, like a Microsoft, these $1 trillion companies, if the report is good, right? So let's say they beat earnings expectations and they raise forward guidance or something like that. That usually sets the tone for the rest of earnings season. I like to call it the cockroach theory. Many of you have probably heard me say that before. If many of you probably have kids. If you're taking your kid apartment hunting, their first apartment in college, you see a cockroach crawl out from under the refrigerator. Chances are there's way more cockroaches, probably like 6 or 7 more under that refrigerator. Same concept in the stock market, right? If you have a company that is in the same sector as others report a great quarter, well, chances are that's probably going to carry the rest of the market, and those other stocks in the same sector should be reporting similar earnings. You could expect positivity. So we're pretty much going to spend the entire night tomorrow talking about Microsoft. All eyes are on their cloud computing division, Microsoft Azure, and I believe that will set the tone for the rest of big tech earnings season. Russell Miller, what's going on? Thanks for joining us as I just got home from Philly. Love that. Gary Carpenter's here, EMV. Matthew, this is Tom. How was your day? I had a really good day. Really, really good day. Just hanging out in Central Park. It was a busy day though. Working crazy hours. Lance is here. Lori C. Margaret from Virginia. JY, what's going on? Sarah says government is spending. Government is spending. Now, thoughts on the new proposed tax rate. I think it's a little bit egregious. We don't have too much time to go into it tonight, but I think this whole proposition of taxing unrealized gains, I think it's a bad idea. Number one, I don't know how that's going to work. Again, we can get into this a little bit more on a other live stream because we're only going to be on for about an hour tonight, but I just don't know how that's going to be feasible. So this new proposed tax, right, is going to be a tax on unrealized gains, which is not going to affect everybody, right? I believe they are proposing it on high net worth individuals. Again, don't know how that's going to work because usually very wealthy people have the vast majority of their net worth tied up in assets that are worth a lot, right? So let's say if you have a ton of money in a retirement account or something like that, let's say you saved really well and you did really well in the market and in your IRA or something like that, you have 10 or 20 million bucks. Well, you don't pay taxes on that. It grows tax deferred, and usually you pay taxes, right? Obviously, depending on what type of IRA you have. This is just a small example. You pay taxes once you have a taxable event. So if you sell a security, if you sell a stock, sell a bond, then you would pay taxes on the gain. But taxing unrealized gains, how would you come up with that liquidity to pay the tax? So I think it's a bad idea. Those are my high level thoughts. I'd love to know what you guys think. And again, I understand that it's proposed mainly to high net worth individuals. Totally understand that. But is that going to cause capital flight from the US? I don't think right now. I think if it was ever signed into law and actually proposed, I think it would. Man, Central Park is really peaceful tonight. Now, you guys are never going to believe this. If I walk over here, you'll get a little bit better perception of what I'm about to explain to you. Earlier in the year, we had this crazy rain event. I'm sure many of you remembered that live stream. I want you to visualize how far down this is, right, from this bridge. So there's a walking path under this bridge. And this year, when we had that crazy 24 hours worth of rain, the water was level with where I'm standing here. It was insane. That's about 10 feet of water. Literally, you can go back and watch the stream. It was nuts. Because right here, there's a storm drain. Let me see if I can go over a little bit. Not that you guys care, but it's kind of cool for some perspective. There's a drain here, right there. And there's also another drain down here. Look at this. right here. These clog with all of this debris during heavy rains, and the water fills up. And the NYPD had to rope off this entire area. It was crazy. Anyway, this is a pretty cool view of the Trump Tower. This is 1 Central Park West. This is the Trump International Hotel and Tower, visible from Central Park. And then you have one of the most sought after and luxurious apartment buildings in all of New York City right here at 15 Central Park West. Beautiful, beautiful night. Lance says, Tom, I can see the IRS eliminating mortgage interest deductions before touching unrealized gains. That would be crazy if they did that, because that's one of the things that really helps middle-class Americans, I believe. I think they should keep that. I think you should be able to deduct interest on your mortgage. I don't know about that. I don't know if they'll ever touch that, but I mean, let's hope not. My whole thing is this, you know, in very, very short order, I thought that was a rat, but it's a plastic bag. I believe in no taxation without representation. And this government that we have right now, right, on both sides of the aisle, both sides, both Democrats and Republicans, I don't feel like they're providing us with a lot of value. And I think many people on both sides of the political spectrum would agree with that. So I think they're having it a little bit backwards, right? Before you ask your fellow Americans for more, I think you need to provide. It's not the other way around, right? So I could understand if everything was working, you know, in a perfectly functioning society. We don't have homeless people, you know, ravaging the streets of our major cities in America. We don't have these massive drug crises that are going on in pretty much every city in America. If that didn't happen, and they're like, hey guys, you know, everything's a utopia, we're gonna make it even better for you, you know, we just want to raise your tax a little bit more to pay up for that, I'd say, maybe we could have the conversation. But right now it's a non-starter, I think. You can't show yourself as being derelict in your duties of being a good, let's just say, overwatch of how we spend our money, and prove to the American people that you've spent it in an egregious manner, and then just ask for more. That's ridiculous, right? That's kind of like, you know, if you're a hedge fund manager and you're raising money from clients, let's say combined total your clients give you, you know, $250 million, $250 million, and you trade that $250 million down to $50 million, and then saying, hey guys, can you give me another $250 million? Yeah, it's not how that works. It's if you prove yourself and you have a great track record and you're making money and you show good returns, then you have more leverage to go to your clients and ask for more money. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. That's kind of how I think about it. So with the government proposing these higher taxes on capital gains, some of the highest we've ever had in this country, I think it's a little crazy. And it's almost like, how do they even have the gall to kind of ask us for that, right? At a time like this. I should say they should go back and do an internal audit and a reflection and say, hey, how could we be better stewards of the tax dollars that we are already taking in? That's what I would say. Anyway. All right, now we are at Columbus Circle. It's a beautiful night out. It's 10:14 p.m., 58 degrees. Let me catch up on some of the chats. Jack CW says Canada is going after capital gains too. JPEX says, hey Tom, hope you are keeping well. Watching you from Montreal. Nice evening. Good to see all of our Canadian viewers. Let's see who else we got. Davio says, hey Tom, great to catch up with you tonight from the Gold Coast once more. We've been having quite a lot of rain, but it sounds like a lot less than you guys. Yeah, for sure. Central Park is a little bit spooky at night, but I actually kind of like it. KML says the tax the rich scheme works well as a campaign slogan for Biden, but it's lousy economics. Yeah, I mean, the problem is everybody thinks that more money is going to solve problems. It doesn't. More money does not solve problems, right? It's the same kind of narrative that, the old cliche saying that money doesn't buy you happiness. It also doesn't solve any of the world's problems. And we've gone over this many times. Just look what's happened in California over the last decade. California has put more money in terms of monetary power towards solving the homeless crisis than any other city combined. So they spend more money to address the problem, but then they have the biggest problem, and the problem is growing. So again, not to sound like a broken record, it's not the money. You could throw $1 trillion at the homelessness crisis in California, and it's not going to get any better. It's the people in charge, it's management, it's leadership. So money doesn't solve any problems. Money is just a tool to solve those problems, right? And you'd be surprised. Oftentimes it takes a lot less money to create something than a lot of people believe. A lot of it's in waste, and a lot of it's spent in just. But that's the biggest problem that I think Americans need to understand. And I get it. A lot of people are frustrated, and they think, oh, the rich are, getting richer, the poor are getting poorer, which is totally true. You have a good point. But the solution is not to just tax the rich in perpetuity forever. The first step to solve this problem is, let's address the root problem, which is how are we spending that money? And how can we put people in power that would be good stewards of the money, right? Same thing on Wall Street. You're not going to give a lousy money manager more money to manage. That's exactly what we're doing in Congress. We're giving these very, very poor money managers more money to manage. It's ridiculous. Now, this is the Trump International Hotel and Tower at 1 Central Park West. And you can see this little beam sticking out. That's the new congestion pricing. So should you take a vehicle south of 60th Street, pretty soon, I don't know when it's going to start, but pretty soon you're going to get a charge, an added fee, if you will, or a tax, right? Speaking of taxes, you're going to get like a ticket. I think it's like $12 every time you just drive your car south of 60th Street, which is just a little strange, but New England Crypto is here. Good to see you. Old Wise Owl says the system of homelessness and shelters are a business like any other. Solve the problem, then you can't make money off of it anymore. Oh, totally. And that's been a major problem, because a lot of these nonprofits now, right? Not to kind of trash on the nonprofits, but these have become just big, just disgusting slush funds. And the people at the very top of these nonprofits that are, getting all these government grants and all this money to address this problem, we've now created a problem where they're incentivized not to solve the problem, right? They're making so much money, the people that are in charge of these organizations, and even just the government organizations. If you solve homelessness, well, what's going to happen to all those administrators that have to send the people out in the field to, get a tally count or place people in shelters? Those jobs are gone. So the people in power are actually incentivized to make the problem worse, so they can elongate their job security, which is really just quite interesting, right? 222 ain't. This is Tom. You seem drawn to Trump. Do you have a pair of gold boots? I do have a pair of gold boots. I have 2 pairs of gold boots. Choice 73. This is a loophole around those cameras. Care to explain? I've read this crazy article that there's these organized kind of crime schemes, if you will, where people are forging their license plates. So when they go through one of these tolls and the camera takes a picture of the license plate, it's just going to random people, which is also another problem. So people that aren't even driving are getting billed for just people that are forging these license plates. Crazy stuff. But anyway, so do you guys think, like, let's just totally speculate here, because the main topic that we were talking about is this new proposal to tax unrealized gains, right? Look at this yellow lab. It's this proposal to potentially tax unrealized gains. Good idea, bad idea? Could it work? Will it work? Should it work? I say no. But the bigger question is, does this, assuming that it gets signed into law, which it won't, by the way, but let's assume it does, will that cause capital flight from the United States? Yes or no? Hey, Patrick D, what's going on? I think that moped guy almost got hit. Surfs Flat Traders is of course. Oh, Wise Owl says no. Hey, Juan Carlos, what's up? Well, I actually may... Ooh, that gentleman just fell. I'm gonna go see if he's all right. You all right? Yeah. You good? You okay? Yeah, you gotta sometimes watch the crates pick up. You good? All right. Have a good night. Yeah, I was telling you guys on earlier streams, you gotta watch out for these grates, man. Now, here's something interesting. This past January, does anybody know what was enacted into law? And if you don't, I'll cut right to the chase because we're only going to be on for about an hour. It was the 1% excise tax on all share buybacks. So for those of you who don't know what a share buyback is, there's really two main ways that companies can return value to shareholders, right? Like in a direct way. Number one is just to issue a regular dividend. Everybody knows what dividends are. Let me just get around this. So you could return value to shareholders by regular dividends, right? You get paid a quarterly dividend, or the company could take funds or money on the balance sheet and purchase their own stock in the open market. And what this does is it reduces the overall float or the overall shares outstanding, thus increasing the earnings per share, right? Because if you're removing shares on the open market, then in turn you increase the earnings per share of the company, which is something that a lot of investors watch, right? You want to make sure EPS is growing. By my standards, probably by about 25% per annum, or 25% quarter over quarter is kind of the threshold I watch. So the government started to catch on to say, you know what, a lot of these corporations are, quote unquote, trying to evade taxes, right? By just doing these really aggressive share repurchase programs, because remember, that's not a taxable event. If you're issuing a dividend to shareholders, you are then paying somebody a dividend. That is a taxable event. But if you're just buying shares on the open market, thus increasing the earnings per share, that's technically not a taxable event where a corporation would have to pay taxes on that, right? So government caught on to this. Elizabeth Warren was really championing, I don't know the word, championing, I don't even know how to say it. I'm a little bit too tired tonight. But essentially they've passed the law where any share repurchase programs now are subject to a 1% excise tax. So what this was going to do, or what many people on Wall Street thought this was going to do, is discourage corporations from buying back their own stock. However, that didn't happen at all. If anything, we're on track for record share buybacks in the United States. So if they do initiate this tax on unrealized capital gains, maybe it won't cause any capital flight. I don't know. Maybe it'll complicate things. Maybe it'll be a little bit more laborious to do taxes. But it doesn't seem like these incremental taxes are preventing, you know, these type of programs. I don't know. If I get a dividend from, let's say, Apple, and it's in my brokerage account, I have to pay taxes on that dividend. RB says, taxing unrealized gains, typical government overreach, and it's very insulting. I agree, but to be fair, it's proposed, essentially from what I read today, it was proposed on high net worth individuals. So it wouldn't be subject to the masses, I guess. Khan, good to see you. Thanks for joining us. Man, look at that gorgeous view of 432 Park Avenue. Norman says tax unrealized gains. We need refunds on unrealized losses. 222 Ain't says, Tom, any thoughts on bailing out Wall Street in 2008? I think it was the wrong thing to do. However, if we're going to be totally transparent and blunt about it, if there was no bailout, the United States would have gone through probably a multi-year depression. I mean, let's just say what it is. However, on the flip side, if you believe in capitalism, not crony capitalism, then you are not for any of these bailouts. Because essentially what that's doing, it's creating crony capitalism, which is privatizing the gains, right? Which is fine. I'm all for privatizing the gains, but you can't subsidize the losses, right? So that creates an environment which in 2008, they always threw around the term of moral hazard, right? So if you can let the bankers run wild and plunge the economy into a recession because they're not doing the appropriate underwriting on their deals, right? You know, subprime mortgage crisis. If they can do that, make all that money by initiating these bad loans, and then once the loans go bad, the taxpayer bails them out, that creates a moral hazard. So you let Wall Street make all this money, right? When times were good, but then there's no risk when things go bad. I disagree with that. The point where it gets a little bit touchy is if we didn't bail out the banks, there would have been, I mean, it would have been 2008 financial crisis that bad times like 10. It would have been a depression. But then again, I mean, if you're a free markets person and you're a pure capitalist, that's capitalism. So the bailouts spurred what I like to call a new era, a new paradigm of capitalism, which unfortunately is a form of crony capitalism, in my view. You know, there's a really good, and I always mention this, there's a really good mini documentary series. I believe Reason TV was the producer. It's called I Am the 1%. And it's it's not live, but it was pretty, unedited for the most part, footage of Zuccotti Park during the Occupy Wall Street protests, right? And Peter Schiff, who is the CEO of Euro Pacific Capital and Euro Pacific Bank, was down in Zuccotti Park live, kind of talking back and forth with a lot of these protesters and explained this exact paradigm, right? Because the Occupy Wall Street protests kind of morphed into this socialist, nonsensical movement about blaming capitalism for the 2008 financial crisis, when in reality, capitalism is the solution, but what we have is crony capitalism. This is actually a pretty cool shot of all these people trying to catch a cab here outside of Carnegie Hall. Man, it's like 10:30 at night, but the city is busy. Brad says all new taxes are presented as only going after the rich, but as happens with supply side economics, trickle down always occurs. Your taxes will also go up. Fat Pizza 56 says, why don't these folks get Ubers? Probably because of surge pricing. A lot of times Uber will know when major events and shows are getting out. Oh my gosh, talk about a traffic jam. If you tried to call an Uber right now to the corner of 57th Street and 7th, it'd probably be like $100 for your Uber with the surge pricing. Patricia Ivory, what's up? Hey, KM Ramsey says hello from Cincinnati. Ruben, what's up? New England Crypto says, I put the stream on my 65-inch 4K TV. That's awesome. Thank you for watching. Victor says, I'm tired. I'm tired too, honestly. Madison 32 says, Tom, I wish we had term limits. At the point there would be no Elizabeth Warrens. I agree with term limits as well. Lee says, high net worth individuals avoid income taxes. They borrow against their assets, thus avoiding the tax event. Yeah, that happens in a lot of cases too. It's a good point. All right, let's cross here. Lee makes a good point. Some of the deals that we work on here with purchasing real estate transactions, oftentimes people will just borrow against the current assets they have and use that as collateral to take on more debt, which is a really good strategy if you want to just accumulate assets. So let's say if you have, $10 million worth of property in a portfolio scattered across the United States, and you want to add to that portfolio, but you don't want to liquidate any of your current existing holdings, right? So you don't want to sell your real estate. Well, you can use that current real estate as collateral to then acquire more. A lot of people do that. Because if you were to sell your house, right, for the most part, you have to pay capital gains tax on that, unless you do like a 1031 exchange into another deal. Man, the city is rocking tonight, guys. It's good to see because it is a definite stark contrast from when we were walking around during the pandemic. And the city is on fire. It's 10:30 at night, and you'd think it's like 7 o'clock at night. "56 is Tom. When's the last time you were in Coney Island?" Oh my God. A really long time ago. Really, really long time ago. Yeah, I haven't been to Coney Island in a long time. Now, I spend a lot of time now, well, I shouldn't even say a lot of time, I don't, but I've been spending more time in Brighton Beach, Brooklyn. And Brighton Beach, for those of you who don't know, it's a very, very, very rich Russian community. We're doing some deals out there. We actually just launched sales on a few things, and it's going really well, really, really well. It's a very tight-knit community over there. Very interesting environment, but it's really, really far out. It's like an hour to get there. Yeah, Snitzers, it's good to see New York City alive. The lockdowns were brutal on people. I agree. Hey, Sabrina Fair, what's going on? Good to see you. Yeah, Brad says a lot of smokers I'm noticing tonight. I wonder if that increases with the influx of migrants. I don't know if there's a correlation to that. But I will say, for whatever reason, I believe that a lot of younger people, particularly like college students, Gen Zs, I'm seeing so many more young people smoking, which is like beyond me, right? Because we have the data that came out that shows a lot of young people are not drinking alcohol. Remember we talked about that? We spent a lot of time talking about that. Not only did it show up in the data in terms of all the polling numbers, but it showed up in the financial results of LVMH. So LVMH, Moët Hennessy, right? Every single one of the metrics of all of the products that they sell increased in revenue quarter over quarter and year over year, except their wine and spirits division. Revenue actually declined in their wine and spirits division at LVMH. So people, generally speaking, are drinking less alcohol, which I think is good, right? But on the other side, on the flip side of that, which is probably worse for you, I'm not a doctor, I have no medical experience, but I'm just assuming, there's a lot of smokers. And I've even seen high school kids sucking on these vape things, like these, you know, those little vape pens, I guess they call them, the Juuls or something. And that is horrible for you. Horrible, horrible. I think people believe this false narrative that, you know, if you don't smoke a cigarette, but you just use this vape, that it's safer and it's healthier. That stuff, I'm going to make a prediction. And again, this isn't based in any data. So I just want to set that clear. This is just totally pulling it out of the sky. I think you're going to have studies 20 years down the line that says, oh yeah, all of this vaping stuff was way worse than actually smoking cigarettes, and it's going to cause so many different problems. Because all that stuff is all chemicals. I mean, you're breathing in all this nasty chemicals and like this mix of disgusting toxins. But these kids love it. And these companies market it so aggressively, and they make them, you know, they infuse it with all these different flavors and, you know, like cotton candy flavor and all this nonsense. And it really attracts younger people to smoking these vapes. And I think it's dangerous. I think it's going to crush young people as they get older. That's my prediction. Hey, check the logic. What's going on? Good to see you. Anna says, one of my best friends is allergic to alcohol. Really? And she smokes as her vice. Chromification. This is, I'm 27, used to vape, but I quit. Good for you, man. Good for you. That's very, very good. Yeah, if there's any smokers in here, you know, try your hardest. It's obviously easier said than done, but try your hardest to quit. You don't need that stuff. Again, way easier said than done, but just try to get rid of all that nonsense from your life. You don't need to be dependent on it.
What is your problem?
But if you guys are enjoying the live stream so far tonight, feel free to leave a like on the video and click the subscribe button if you're new. We do these streams about every day starting at 8:30 p.m. Just as a reminder, tomorrow is Thursday, everybody, which means we will be sending out our free investing newsletter called Behind the Street. So if you want to receive all of our free research tomorrow, right as the market is closing, just go ahead and scan the QR code on your screen and punch in your email. We have a lot to talk about. Tomorrow we're going to get GDP numbers out at 8:30 a.m. We're going to hear from Microsoft and many others. So you do not want to miss it. Let me just plug my phone in. Give me a second. Battery's gonna die. We'll pull off to the side here by the BNP Paribas. Which is the French investment bank. Hopefully we can get this done in time. All right, let's see. All right, cool. Cool. Lastly, we have Microsoft reporting earnings tomorrow. That's going to give us a good insight into cloud computing with Microsoft Azure. And then a little bit later on, we're going to have Amazon and Alphabet reporting. So we'll be able to see a little bit more into AWS and Google's Google Cloud unit, both of which are extremely important. Jeff W277 says my addiction is caffeine. I would say the same here. Speaking of caffeine, I think I've asked this before many times on the stream. Anybody a big fan of Celsius? Anybody ever try the energy drink Celsius? Well, a lot of analysts on the street are trying to model that company after Monster. I'm gonna have the obnoxious rickshaw guys go by. Let's go the other way. Usually we sometimes buffer down here. But Celsius, I believe, is based in Boca Raton, Florida, or Fort Lauderdale. And that is a company I've been watching very, very closely. Patrice 2020 says, yes, I like Celsius. Yeah, apparently it's marketed as a healthier energy drink, but it doesn't have all the crazy sugar that Red Bull has, which Red Bull seems to be actually pretty dangerous. This is the Capitol Grill. This place is awesome. And right above it you have Mizuho. This is the sales and trading desk. You can see all the Bloomberg terminals. And then right in front of us we have Radio City. Alan's, could you do a walk down Kensington Avenue? I don't know what that is. I've been in New York my whole life. I've never heard of Kensington Ave. Now, I have a lot of friends from abroad, and they'll tell me they'll come to the United States and they'll eat the same amount or the same portions of food, but they'll just gain weight. And then when they go back to their own countries, like Korea, Italy, and the like, they lose all the weight, which leads me to believe that whatever's in all this American food, I don't know what it is, but it's probably not good for us. And if you look at a chart, America is spending more and more money as a percentage of GDP on healthcare, but our citizens are just getting sicker and sicker and sicker. So it has to be, there has to be something. There has to be some sort of catalyst. There has to be some variable. And I think it's probably all the additives in the food, honestly. All these processed additives in the food. It's probably making us all sick. A lot of friends from Korea, they'll say they come here, they'll eat the same amount, and they gain weight. But when they go back to Korea, they're like, they can eat as much as they want. Now, that's anecdotal, and that's not proven, but it is an interesting thing to check into. Yeah, KML says, Tom, can you take us by Tavern on the Green some night? We can. Yeah. The only problem is, though, as you head up Central Park West, there's no internet past like 60th Street, where there's very little internet. But we could try. We could try. Joel says that's the capitalism in the food. That's hilarious. I'm gonna take a screenshot of that comment. I love that comment. Absolutely hilarious. Hey, Cosmo, what's going on? When am I going to Korea? Hopefully soon. I just am so busy with work. It's been nuts. It's very, very difficult for me to travel. Someone says, I don't know if you mentioned it, but what do you think about the TikTok ban? Is it being banned? I think they proposed it being banned, but I don't know if they've actually banned it. I have mixed feelings about it. At first, I was like, yeah, you gotta ban TikTok. It's just Chinese spyware. I don't use TikTok. I don't even have it downloaded on my phone. I don't like it. But I don't know if banning it is the way. At first, I used to think you gotta ban it 100%. But I don't know. I feel as if we can get around it with a different solution. Oh, someone says, yeah, it passed with the foreign aid bill. Wow, I didn't even know. I try not to pay attention to a lot of the news. But I didn't know that. Wow, so Genius says, yeah, ByteDance must divest TikTok. So that's what I heard. So it's not like they're gonna ban it. So you could still use TikTok, you could still download it, so long as there's a divestiture, right? John says Tama was signed into law last night. ByteDance has 9 months to sell its stake to an American-owned entity, or it will be removed for use in the US. Wow. Now, how many people are like creators or even companies are really, really nervous now about this? Because if you think about it, there's a lot of people that built, multi-million-dollar businesses off of TikTok. And I don't know if nine months is a realistic time frame to sell a company, but really interesting. Brad's brain says, I don't know, Tom, sometimes you have to take big swings, and banning TikTok in the United States is a good thing. JL says, ByteDance won't do that though. They will most likely challenge it in the Supreme Court on the grounds of the First Amendment. The big problem that I see with TikTok, and we've talked about this before, is that they dictate what goes viral. And a lot of the nonsense that goes viral on TikTok is just pure mind poison, in my opinion. It's just absolutely mind-numbing poison. For the most part. There's a lot of, good stuff, but I think it's very difficult to argue that the CCP doesn't purposely make certain political ideologies or certain opinions go viral, particularly targeted at the young voter, to try to sway influence. That totally happens. I think we could all agree with that. But him taken down and banned. But I think you guys know what I'm talking about. This is Del Frisco's. Great steakhouse. One of my favorite steakhouses in the city. Speaking of propaganda, here's Fox News. I'm just kidding. Kind of major media outlet pushes their own narratives. It's obvious. CNN pushes their own narratives. They just happen to lean way left. And then Fox News pushes their own narratives. Everybody has an agenda. It's very, very difficult to find journalism nowadays that does. Oh, Wise House, is News Corp jamming the stream? Maybe. I'll technically be a contractor for News Corp very soon. Rez Dollar says no people will follow deception before they follow facts. I don't know about that. I mean, have you seen some of the craziness on MSNBC? That's all. I mean, that is deception. They should just rebrand MSNBC as deception, fraud, lies. You could probably say that about a lot of other news organizations too. Yeah, Ken Brockton says Fox literally paid millions for lying. Yeah. And to your point, I think a lot of Americans are kind of waking up to this, and that's why you're seeing the rise of independent journalism, right? Both left-leaning and right-leaning journalism. Because when you have these different intermediaries and platforms where individual journalists are able to make a living, it kind of breaks down those barriers of narratives, right? Because if you're getting paid millions of dollars from CNN or Fox News to be talent, as they call them, you know, you have to kind of fall in line. You have to repeat those narratives. But if you're an independent journalist and you're just, you know, putting things on Substack or writing your own articles or making your own videos and doing things like that, you know, you don't have to toe the line, so to speak. And you can thank the internet for that. That's actually a really good thing. So, I believe many of these big name journalists, right? These big name talents will probably go on to make a lot more money and grow a bigger audience doing things solo as opposed to working for the networks. And you're already kind of seeing that, right? I think Tucker Carlson is a big example of that. Dom Lemon is another example of that, right? Tucker was huge at Fox News, breaking off, doing his own thing. He's probably going to grow a massive media empire. And I think Dom Lemon will too, right? You have a kind of conservative right-leaning voice with Tucker. You have a liberal left-leaning voice with Dom. It doesn't matter what you think about either one of them. The point is, they will be more successful, in my view, solo, doing independent journalism, doing their own thing, running their own business, than they would have working at Fox News or CNN. That's what I think. And I think the viewership will be a lot more too. The Barclays investment bank used to be Lehman Brothers. Yeah, I think the point is, it doesn't matter what you think about either one of them politically. Maybe your politics aligns more with Tucker Carlson. Maybe your politics more aligns with Dom Lemon. The point is, I guess that I'm trying to make, is that legacy media, right? I won't even use the term mainstream media anymore because the viewership is really way down at Fox News and at CNN. You're going to have these legacy networks dying, and it's not even really a political thing. It's just the way people consume content has fundamentally changed. You know, you have the rise of platforms like Substack. You have the rise of platforms like Spotify, right? And consumer habits have changed to more streaming, right? Chances are, probably the vast majority of you no longer pay for a traditional cable package. You probably have a collection or a handful of streaming services that you pay $10 a month, 12 bucks a month for, right? So that part of the business in and of itself is just dying because technology is evolving, and that's pretty normal. This is the Sheraton, New York. Logan Hooper's dude, shut up and point at the pretty buildings. Sure, we're gonna come up on a really pretty building here in a minute. Probably one of the prettiest ones in New York. 157 West 57th Street. It's actually the first building ever constructed on New York City's Billionaires Row. Now the developer is Extell, E-X-T-E-L-L. Gary Burnett is the CEO and founder, and they've also gone on to build Central Park Tower, 217 West 57th Street. Also, if you like that kind of architectural design, a lot of that architectural integrity of not only Central Park Tower here, but 157, you also may be interested in the Torch, which is a brand new development that is going up at 850 8th Avenue, or excuse me, 830 8th Avenue, which is going to be an 850 room hotel and a drop ride attraction on top. It's going to be built right near Restaurant Row in New York City. And lastly, they've also constructed One Manhattan Square, which is that huge glass building just beside the Manhattan Bridge. But most of the pretty buildings that I think are pretty anyway in New York are on 57th Street, Billionaires Row. And they were all put up 2014 and on. So if you haven't been to New York City since 2014, well, chances are the skyline is going to look completely different than when you last were here. Man, the wind is starting to pick up again. It's always windy in New York. Now this vacant lot here, I'm not too sure what they're going to do with it. But the building on the corner, they're going to do an internal demolition. So that used to be the main location for Bad Boy Entertainment or Bad Boy Records. So P. Diddy's old record label, or I guess still in operation. But that is going to be demolished internally, which essentially means they're going to rip the building down to the bare bones. And I think they're going to do a condo conversion. So it's going to be office to condos. And I think Extell is on that project too. But guys, it's 11 o'clock. We started the stream late. I got to get home and get some sleep. I got to be up early. It's going to be a busy, busy day tomorrow. And I also have to send out the newsletter to all of you. So if you enjoyed the live stream tonight, feel free to leave a like on the video. Click the subscribe button if you're new. And check your email tomorrow around 6 p.m. because we're going to be sending out our 5th issue, 2024 issue of the Behind the Street newsletter. We are going to be covering a lot. Tomorrow we're going to get GDP numbers out, Microsoft earnings, and much more. So feel free to scan the QR code, punch in your email, and you will be signed up for our Substack. So with that said, guys, have a great night. I will see you all tomorrow. We will regroup right here live from New York City tomorrow at 8:30. So Hawaii, I appreciate it. Abdullah, Richard Vogel, Stealth FX, Patrice, Line Sync, Gary Carpenter, Abdullah, Oscar, Kimberly, Shannon, Joel PM. Always a bull market somewhere. You just need to know where to look. See you guys tomorrow. Take care.